Welcome to the Six Again podcast, your new destination for all things NRL. Here to bring you everything from team news to best bets are your hosts Adam Hoy and Jared Newton. Let's kick off.
Welcome into Six Again after some technical difficulties. We're finally kicking off on tonight's episode. Sounding like I'm sitting in a wind tunnel, my name is Adam.
My name's Jared, and I'm not turning off my fan because it's way too hot to be doing that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's your fan. I think it's just my settings aren't working as they usually do. So if I'm talking louder than I should be, just put your hand up.
It's currently 36 degrees here.
Yeah, you're not turning off your your fan. That's fine. If you're watching this on YouTube, yes, you'll see that I am sitting in the Wigan Warriors dressing room. In front of a ex-Wigan Warrior, now current Wigan Warrior, but also ex-Canberra Raiders player, John Bateman. Say hello, John. Yep, excellent.
That's as far as you can understand him.
That's pretty much it. If you haven't seen it, John Bateman touched back down in the UK after his stint at Canberra, and the video of him seeing his daughter for the first time, I think, in 9 months or something, was pretty nice to see. And then Wigan also during the week has changed their logo. They've been doing a whole rebranding, and the reason I got the picture up is their jerseys look mint.
Yeah, I really like them. They're really cool.
They do look. They've got like that dark blood red, black and white, red, black and white color scheme. What's another awesome? Oh, Palmwoods Devils. That's right. Same color scheme that legendary club has. Jared?
Yes.
Sure.
Used to be legendary. Now not so much.
Yeah, that's who he used to play for. Anyway, so a little bit of stuff's happened over the past week, and most of it to do with signings, but there's been some other off-field stuff going on, and we'll cover that. We're going to start off with, it's been a week since we started off our first competition. You had to try and beat us by putting up the team of worst players, or the best team you could have come up with from the 2020 season. And the winner of that was a bit of a smart ass comment, but I'm going to pay it anyway. And it goes out to Joel Brower, who basically just posted up the entire Broncos list. And technically you can't argue with that because they were horrible and thoroughly deserve the wooden spoon. But in saying that, I think that'd be a great match. That Broncos team versus the team that we put together. Over or under 6 points?
Well, I'm just thinking that they both had Boyd at fullback. So anyone who made a break is instantly going to go over the...
What if Boyd made the break?
Everybody would slip over.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, no, it was a pretty horrible looking team. So we're hoping to have the first run of stubby coolers done up by this weekend. So Joel, shoot us a message on Facebook or DM on Twitter, so we can get your details, so we can get that sent out to you. John Bateman video. And I just want to do a shout out to new follower Tim F, who agreed with, well, maybe not so much our conversation last week with regards to backflipping on contracts, but comparing the contract of Joe Sawale, he thought of it more as Tedesco, who had said yes to the Raiders, so moving to the Raiders from the Tigers, but backflipped for more money at the Roosters. So it was more of a bidding war of two clubs he hadn't previously gone to. And I think that's a pretty good comparison of what is, it's a closer comparison, I guess.
I still don't agree, but okay.
Anyway, so thanks for that, Tim F. Make sure you jump on our social accounts and just throw comments at us here, there, and everywhere. And I'm coming to the end of the work year, so I'll have time to actually look through them a bit more and come back at you. Anyway, let's start with the off-field stuff outside of the signings, because that's going to be the bulk of the show. But I guess the big news that's dropped probably in the last 24 hours has been out of Melbourne. and this will lead to signings down the track, but the three-way battle for the hooker role at Melbourne is, I was about to say becoming clearer, it could be getting murkier. But the club's allowed Brendan Smith to start looking elsewhere for deals from the 2022 season onwards. He's contracted at Melbourne for 2021 and 2022. However, Melbourne will release him a year early if they are compensated, with a like-for-like player. Not as in the same position, but the same quality. And they make the key point that Brendan Smith is now a premiership winner, which adds money. He's a Kiwi international. So he's on roughly about $400,000 this year, but will be looking for an upgrade on his next contract. He wants to be a starting number 9. His agent, Stan Martin, has said he wants to be a starting number 9. And Melbourne, as they pretty much always have been, is working with the player, not against them, and saying they obviously want to keep him. They've made that quite clear, but they're also not going to stand in his way because they also have to look at their club moving forward as well and where they're putting money. I guess this is the first domino to fall. We haven't heard about Cameron Smith, what he's doing. The only thing that kind of seems clear moving forward is that Harry Grant will be in Melbourne colours. Yeah, long-term number 9 for the Melbourne Storm.
See, I've seen Brendan Smith play 9. He's a quality hooker, but his best games is when he plays as that roving forward. I
just had to take my headphones off. I can't sit through that.
He's when he comes on, even if he starts at front row or when he comes on at front row, he changes the game by himself. He's that dominant way he runs with so much power. Like I said, he's a quality he's good enough to play NRL starting hooker, and that's what he's looking for. But his best games he's played have not been a hooker. And I don't think his best games moving forward will be a hooker. I think how Bellamy's playing him right now is the best way for him to play. And I'm not criticising him at all because he's one of my favourite players. I just believe that the way he's playing now, he should stick to it.
I agree with, I think, everything you said there for once. Outside of the utility forward, that role at Melbourne is his best role. I think at other clubs, he's definitely a first 13 player. I agree that he's NRL standard dummy half, but I would also put an asterisk next to that saying he's not your prototypical dummy half that's going to win you a premiership. Most clubs that win a premiership, if you look at their hooker, their dummy half, they're either an absolute workhorse in defense with little attacking quality, and they get away with it because they've got a team of attacking quality around them. Think Jake Friend at the Roosters. You could think back to Matt Ballin in 08 for the Broncos, for the Sea Eagles, with that back line around them. You can think of Andrew McCulloch for the Broncos in the 2015 grand final. Even though they didn't win, there was quality around them to score points. The other end of the scale is your complete game breakers or game managers. Your Cameron Smith, your Damien Cook. Sorry?
Harry Grant, Danny Badura.
Harry Grant, yeah, those sort of players. I don't think Brendan Smith fits into either of those. He's going to get through his tackles as he does, but he offers so much with regards to running meters, post-contact meters, as a ball runner, not as a scooter, like a Damien Cook style. He's not going to jump out of dummy half and kick a 40-20 like Cameron Smith, but he's not going to negate running by tackling 60 times a game like Friend or McCulloch or Ballin. I see him as a starting lock. I think that is his best position for his skill set. Similar style to what I would like Jake Trbojevic to get back to it Manly, where they've got the ball skills to get the ball out to the back line. They've got the ball skills to go into dummy half if they need to, but their best attribute is running the ball. Could he play dummy half or hooker at an NRL club? Yeah, definitely. I agree with you that he's getting the best outcome for Melbourne and for himself coming off the bench. But I could see him going to another club and being the starting lock long term. That's
but
where I see it.
In saying all that, I wish him all the best in whatever club he gets. Someone will pick him up.
And he could still stay at Storm.
Yeah, the little side story to this is actually a tad amusing. So they sent an email out to 14 clubs. So
this is Melbourne sent an email.
No. So Brandon Smith's manager sent.
Manager. Yep. Sorry.
Yeah.
Agent.
Player agent. Yeah. So he sent to 14 separate clubs. So obviously he didn't send it to Melbourne because he wants to leave. He's going to leave. But there's 16 clubs. So there's one club he didn't send it to. The cool thing is, so you think about teams like Canberra. They've got Josh Hodgson. Penrith's got Coruscant.
Jake Friend's locked up.
Jake Friend at Roosters. You know, there's a few teams that he'd go to and he'd struggle to make it. The team he didn't send to don't actually have a definite hooker, which is Gold Coast. So
they've got a number of hookers, but no definite one.
Yeah, so if he walked into the Gold Coast, he'd be starting number 9. And look, this is just reporting, but it is funny that that's the only team he didn't send it to. So what's the issue with Gold Coast Titans? I'm curious.
I think I found it quite amusing as well. There's kind of 2 lines of thought here. One is that Cameron Smith has signed a swan song deal at the Titans, and they will therefore no longer need a hooker for next. Well, they'll need one for the year after next, but maybe they don't want to deal with Titans knowing that Smith's the one going there. That's one school of thought that's out there. The other one could be that the Titans have fleeced a few players from Melbourne in the last few years. If you look at Kevin Proctor. You look at Tino Fasamawale. Who was the other one I had just before? Who did you just say?
Proctor.
Oh, Proctor. Yeah, same. There could be something going on there. Not sure, but it is interesting that the Titans were literally the only
I just
team not included in that email.
Like the pure balls on him to go, look, he's free. To teams like Roosters, because we said Jake Friend's locked in, but they've also got Sam Verrills. And then you look at Canberra, we said Josh Hodgson. They've got Tom Starling coming through. Cowboys, they've got Jake Clifford, but then they got Reece Robson coming through. So you got a lot of clubs he sent it to that have established hookers, but young fellas behind them as well. I love it. It's just funny. Like the pure, this is who I am. This is how much I'm asking. Take it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. So with that in mind, then 2021, they've made it clear he'll be at Melbourne for 2021, regardless. 2022, I've got a list of 5 clubs who I believe would be the best fit. So I've jumped on Zero Tackle here because it's pretty much the only site where you can see players' contracts throughout the next few years. Their financial figure only goes up if they're 330,000 or more, or if the club has decided to release their figures or anything like that, which is pretty minimal in today's world. So the first club I had where I could see him going there and having a huge impact is going back to where it all started. For him, at the NRL level, in the rugby league system, which is the Cowboys, which goes against everything I just said before of him being a starting lock, because he's not going to take Tamalolo's job. He would be going there as a hooker. I'd forgotten about Reece Robson. Reece Robson is contracted for another 3 years. And there's nothing that Robson has done to show them any reason for going out to get another dummy half, because he's knocked Jake Granville out of the starting position. So he's knocked their only premiership winning hooker out of their position. And he's contracted through to the end of 2023. So I think that's enough to wipe Cowboys out, unless he's willing to go there and be a bench player, which we know
he's not the Bulldogs or Tigers.
Yeah, so Bulldogs and Tigers are both on the list. I'm just looking through the Bulldogs squad now.
They don't have an established nine.
No, and with all the signings that they've been doing, the closest would be Matt Burton. We know he's not going there to play hooker.
Yeah, so
they don't have a lot of players signed for 2022.
Yeah, no, they're going to do. Bulldogs going to be the heaviest in the player market next year, and I think they'll throw the checkbook at him.
You may as well. I'm just looking at 2022. Jake Averillo, outside back. Matt Burton, half. Nick Kotrick, outside back. Adam Elliott, Raymond Fatala-Mariner, Jack Hetherington, Josh Jackson, Joe Stimson, Luke Thompson, Corey Waddell. They're all your forwards, and they're all props in second row. And then you've got Brandon Wakeham and Dallin Watene-Zelezniak and Kyle Flanagan. That's all they've got signed.
Yeah.
They've got a halfback and a hooker. Yeah, they have no hooker signed at 2022. And even those whose contracts run out in 2021, they've been rolling with Jeremy Marshall-King as their most consistent hooker. And Brendan Smith would be an immediate upgrade on that straight away.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're going to throw the checkbook at him. And obviously, Tigers, they've got Jacob Liddell, but I wouldn't be surprised if they also threw the checkbook at him.
Yeah, well, we'll get to them later about the amount of money that they've got available at the moment. But the club I keep coming back to, and we did this in the 16 free agents and 16 clubs a couple of weeks ago, and I had a hooker going to this team, and that's the Warriors. Yeah. Knowing that he is a Kiwi, he's from the Auckland area. Have a look, 2022. Wade Egan, his contract runs out in 2022, and he's their hooker at the moment. Brandon Smith would be an upgrade there, you would assume.
Yeah. Look, the thing about it is that there's going to be a club pop out that no one even thinks of, and is going to get rid of their hooker. At this point, there's two teams without a hooker in 2021, and that is Bulldogs and that is Manly. So you guys, depending what happens with Fainu, whatever, how do you pronounce his name? Fainu? Finau. Sorry. So if he gets cleared, I don't know what's going on now. I think the next court case is in April, I've heard. I'm not 100% sure. So depends what happened there. Because you guys would have a bit of money, wouldn't you? Or is it all built up in Dylan Walker, Cherry Evans, and Troy?
Oh, well, releasing Fanua Blake, Joel Thompson, not re-signing Danny Levi, that sort of stuff. It's kind of been offset by Jason Saab and Josh Alloway coming in. Jason Saab was getting shit for double the price that he was on at the Dragons, but even in saying that, it's not a lot.
They're the two clubs I see not having a hooker.
But that's for this season, and Melbourne said he's not going anywhere. He's playing for Melbourne.
Yeah, no, but that's true. But 2 years ago, you wouldn't have said that about you guys. You guys had Coruscant Finau.
Yeah, true.
So
Oh, I'll take him. Hell yeah.
yeah, nah, that's right. So because by the looks of it, your hooker options, was rumours about Foran playing hooker, which is absolutely ridiculous. You don't want his shoulder anywhere near the middle of the field.
Yeah.
And the other two options were Cade Cust and Lachlan Croker. You just don't have anyone else unless you have a young fella coming through that no one knows about. But yeah, so and if Finau is not contracted until 2022 or loses it, or whatever happens,
Yeah, I'll have a look.
you guys will be in a prime position, and you guys will be probably the strongest team on paper to go after it.
Yeah,
And
well,
if you had-
I'd Cowboys, Warriors, Titans, Tigers, and Bulldogs.
Yeah, so mine is probably Titans forward pack. You guys probably have the strongest team to actually look at.
Finau's
into someone.
contracted to 2022.
Okay, so there you go. So, this player market next year is going to go nuts. So,
And so is Cade Cust.
like 5 years ago, you wouldn't have predicted Mitchell Pearce playing for Newcastle, Tyson Frizzell playing for Newcastle. What are the weird, like Adam Fanua-Blake is left and 2 weeks later is signed with the Warriors. So many big things happen so quickly in NRL. I wouldn't be surprised he ends up at like Parramatta and Marnie ended up playing for the bloody Roosters or something. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I'm just having a look on. Oh no, yeah. I'd have thought. So yeah. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. Storm will handle this as professionally as they have done. You look at the Addo-Carr saga. Supposedly he was going to be somewhere else next season. He's now staying at Melbourne for another year. They work something out there. They'll work something out here. We'll come back to the signings in a moment. Other news out. So since our last pod, the New Zealand Warriors, there was talk about how their season was going to start and kick off, all that sort of stuff. CEO Cameron George came out and said that decisions this year based around COVID are going to be different to last year because they had the experience of going through it. Said any decisions had to have a certainty of time period before they entered the decision. Players, staff, and players and staff's families will be with them the whole time. And once the decision's made, it's going to be stuck to. And then kind of after that, the decision was made that the Warriors were going to start the season in Australia for a 3-month trial period, 3-month period from January 3rd to April 4th, basing themselves firstly out of Tamworth before relocating to Central Coast. Now, that's not the way that the Warriors would have hoped to start the season because they wanted to be back home for their first 2 rounds. That's not the case, but it's provided clarity for the whole club and the whole comp. So they've sacrificed again for everybody. And they will be playing their first 2 weeks of the season, their home games, out of Central Coast against the Knights and the Titans. Now, since then, there's been this kind of interesting story coming out. At the moment, it's pre-season, but the Warriors have got 2 groups of players, one squad training in Auckland, one squad training in Kiama. In Kiama, you've got all of the new signings, bar Ben Murdoch-Masila, who hasn't joined up with them, and the 2 assistant coaches in Craig Hodges and, forgetting his name now, Justin Morgan. So the rest of the squad's training with Nathan Brown, the head coach, in Auckland. The talk out of both camps is the players are loving it because they're doing exactly the same training sessions where possible. All the data is GPS tracking. So at the end of each session, the players are all coming in, looking at the big screen, to see if the Auckland squad or the Kiama squad's been working harder. And there's been a competition going between both groups to see who's been pushing the hardest in pre-season, who's winning the time trials, who's getting most meters per minute, all this sort of stuff. So the coaches are saying the boys are really loving it, and it's already starting competition between the two squads. It's amazing, I think, already what Nathan Brown has done since coming in, but I think this tracks all the way back to Todd Payton and his efforts with the squad last year, and again, credit to the players for what they're
Todd Payton and Steve Kearney as well.
doing. Yeah.
It brings that competitive edge, and which is great, but playing with each other and against each other, there's no substitute for that.
No.
So, yeah, it's cool during the time trials and, as Adam said, the weights and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, anyone who plays sport with anyone realizes that if you play with someone long enough, you know, they can turn their shoulder differently, or they can look at you and you know what they're going to do. You can't get that just watching on video.
No.
So, yeah. So, it's just, and they're making the best of the bad situation, which is obviously commendable, and we respect that for keeping the NRL comp going. But unfortunately, is it going to detract from there? Are they going to be walking into the season on the back foot already? That's the question. I'm curious.
Bloody negative Nancy.
Oh, I
reckon they'll be fine. Because you've got 18 players in Kiama. It's not like it's a small squad.
That means you've only got 12 in bloody New Zealand.
No. They've got their whole squad there. No, yeah, but they've got their young guys and that. They've got, they'll have all their, New South Wales Cup level.
Yeah, no, I get that. I just worry that
and it's only for now.
Come back. Sorry?
It's only till now, like January 3rd, the Auckland squad flies over and season doesn't kick off till March.
Oh, I just hope they don't come off the back foot. That's all I'm saying.
No, I think it's a bonus to you. Knights don't have to fly to New Zealand. You'll just drive down the road for the home game against the Warriors.
Yeah,
hugely beneficial. But I think it's great. Like if you got time, have a look on there, and the players are loving it. All the new guys coming in have said instead of trying to remember 40 names, they're in a squad of 18, so they're getting to know each other pretty quickly. So again, thank you to the Warriors for getting all that sorted, and thank you to Zoom and all the stuff online so you get to do that. There's been more talk about transfer windows and the fact that the NRL was stepping in and trying to negate these players jumping out halfway through contracts for more money. The bigger words this week is about players coming out saying, what about when the clubs make the decision to not bring back a player due to form, due to previous management or current management making a bad decision on a contract? Josh Reynolds, for example. What if, like players have said, there's been times where clubs have said, don't bother coming back during pre-season, you're not in the squad, even when the player's got 2 years left on their contract. So it's either play reserve grade for 2 years and continue to get paid on the money that you're on, or negotiate a better deal with regards to play time elsewhere, which may not be worth the same financially. So if I'm employed by the Broncos on $400,000 a year, they tell me not to come back for 2021 pre-season, I could play for Ipswich for the next 2 years at $400K, or I could call up the Tigers and play for them for 2 years in their starting 13, but they're only going to give me $270.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the Broncos are under an obligation to put in the other 130 to get me off their books. But it's been interesting that the players have come out saying this is a two-way street. It's not all about players chasing money. Sometimes the clubs are just looking to cut costs. So
with that as well, we had a chat about that with Josh Adler. There's always two sides to the story. So then this is what the players are saying. So with him, the CEO came out and said what he said, and then he said he's going to be mowing the lawns of Concord or some shit, which we really like, because if it's actually the situation we're thinking of, good on the CEO.
Mm.
But Josh Aloy never had a say about how he was treated, unfortunately. So, and that's the part you don't hear. You never hear a player come out and say how he was treated till after their career's over.
Mm.
So, because he just can't afford to, because no club's going to sign it if you're bagging the club you leave it. It's just bad publicity.
Business.
Yeah, but the clubs are allowed to bag players. So I completely understand the players coming out and saying this, but in saying that too, in the last 15, 20 years, since player agents are becoming more dominant, I get where the NRL and the clubs are coming from as well.
Yeah.
So it's a very murky situation, because it's so dependent on what's going on in that individual player that you can't really guess how they're feeling, what's going on in their personal lives, and if or the clubs are trying to cut costs.
True.
So it's just
the players chasing better money elsewhere, to me, is exactly the same as a club trying to get rid of a player that they've signed to too much money for too long a period of time. So like an example could be, well, Josh Reynolds one we knew was just bad deal off the start, but say Cherry Evans or Tamalolo, the first two to sign like your 10-year deals, say their form literally just drops off a cliff, the next 2 seasons, and they've both got another 3 years.
Michael
Morgan, yeah, there you go. So he's still got 3 years left at the Cowboys on $1 million a year. If he hasn't had a massive form reversal, he's going to be costing the Cowboys $3 million in salary over the next 3 years.
Yeah.
What if they just say, yeah, you're not coming back? We'll pay you the $1 million, but you're not in our squad because your form's not warranted. Go look elsewhere. And they're trying to just push their problem onto someone else.
So Michael Morgan, obviously, he's had a few injuries, but yes, he's right. The form has not been there. If anyone's, the player I believe who could kind of kick up a stink for the way he was treated, might be Mitchell Pearce as well. So obviously he debuted at Roosters, I think at 17, 18, 19, something like that, real young. Won a premiership, won about 5 minor premierships, representing New South Wales. And then this is how it came live. Roosters wanted Cooper Cronk.
Yeah.
They play in the same position.
Yeah.
By Mitchell Pearce.
Yeah.
And that was purely a club thing. So Mitchell Pearce, I guarantee you, wouldn't have wanted to leave. Like, why would you? He was set. He was done.
He could have dug his heels in and said, that's great, I'm not leaving.
Yeah, that's right. So the players are right. Clubs and they're going to use it as an excuse too, by saying that it's better for the club for us to get rid of you. But from a business point of view, treat players like shit.
Yeah.
Like they really do. Like Mitchell Pearce did not deserve what happened to him.
I'll throw an example. I'll throw a trial at you. So I'm still learning this sort of stuff as well, but in the NHL, the ice hockey, if a club's made a bad decision on a contract and we've got a new GM and the previous GM made a pretty bad mistake, he was paying a pretty average guy elite wages. The option they've got is a contract buyout. I don't know the calculations behind it, but the guy we had contracted was meant to be earning $5 million this year, next year, and the year after, right? So $15 million worth. Our CEO, our new GM, has bought out that contract. He doesn't have to give the player $15 million up front, but it's portioned out for this, in this scenario, over the next 6 seasons. The most it's going to count against the salary cap in one season is about 2.1 mil. But for the last 2 years, it's worth $600,000 against the salary cap. So that new GM's come in and said, this contract sucks. It's going to be a burden on us for the next 3 years trying to buy players when we need to rebuild. We'll buy him out. He's still on the books for the next 6 years. Instead of 5 million this year, next year, and the next, it might be 1, 1.8, 2.2, 600, 600, 600. So you could do it that way because it allows that player then to, they're completely cut from that club. They can renegotiate elsewhere, but they're still going to get paid by their previous club.
That reminds me, and I know it's not the same,
and it still counts against the club's salary cap.
No, I get. It just reminds me so much of back-ended contracts. That does. I know it's not the same, like not technically the same, but it does remind me of fucking around. It's not up to the club how much they pay them each year. That's done by the independent committee. I get that. It's just when you're explaining it, I understand what you're saying, but it's kind of like reminding me of what Manly and the Bulldogs did.
Yeah, I don't even understand why clubs would want to do that. Because you know it's going to help you in the short term, but it screws you up so bad in the long term.
But that's the thing. Like Des Hasler was a two-time premiership winning coach at Manly because of backdated contract, and then he was got into two grand finals for Bulldogs. That's why. Yeah. So he can come in for 4 years, backdate everyone's contract, and then on the 5th year when he quits,
you're screwed.
Yeah.
And it's worth it. It's worth it to get the premierships.
Yeah, in the short period of time. But look, it's never going to create a dynasty like a creator that Melbourne's got or Roosters have or anything like that. It's just it's bad planning, but I think Des Hasler mainly realised that, look, coaching's such a, you're lucky if you get, you're extremely lucky if you survive 5 years at a club.
Oh, yeah.
And he knew that, and he goes, look, this 5 years, we're doing this. I'll bring you however many premierships. And he nearly did.
And I'm extremely lucky as a fan. I'm 32. I've been paying attention to footy, I guess, since I was 10. So in 22 years, I've had 2 premierships and 2 grand finals, like 2 losing grand finals. That's a fair bit of success for a club. Not your big money club like it was when it came in. You don't have the facilities and resources. Like you'll take the 2 premierships for the the consequences that follow.
In my life, I've won 2, but the first one I was 4.
Yeah, I didn't count the 96 one. I wasn't really old enough.
Well, but that grand final when I was 4 was our favourite on the podcast, wasn't
it? Tom Starling's in a bit of strife. Canberra have backed him up. They haven't released a whole bunch of details. He was arrested under the charge of assaulting police and resisting arrest. By the sound of things, there's still more details that come out of that. We are aware of it. We're not going to go into it anymore than that until more stuff comes out. One thing we can do is update on the Isaac Moses player agent news, in that he was deregistered earlier last year. Time is weird. Jeez, I can't remember. Anyway, he acted outside of the contract terms for a player agent. And he basically told one of his clients to give false evidence when interviewed by the NRL. He was allowed to appeal his deregistration. He did that. And the NRL Appeals Committee has upheld the initial findings that Isaac Moses did break his obligations as a player agent in 2017. So basically, the Appeals Committee will now hear submissions whether their call to deregister him was a sufficient penalty, or whether it was too harsh, or whether it was too lenient. So as of now, yes, the findings were upheld. Technically, he's still allowed to be working until the end of this now new appeals submission timeframe has been complete. So basically, he's guilty but allowed to keep working until judgment of whether the initial consequence was too harsh or lenient or spot on. Doesn't really make a lot of sense, but the quicker he's out of the game, the better.
So when it comes down to stuff behind the scenes, in my head, I automatically go to player agents straight away. Just weird stuff behind the scenes. We mentioned earlier that in the last 15, 20 years, that the player agents been messing up and playing around. Isaac Moses has got so many people on his books, and there are reports that he is holding clubs to ransom. With, I've got 12 of the 30 guys on your books. I'm going to pull them all if this doesn't happen. Which should never happen in the NRL or any professional sport. No outside third party should never have that much influence on a professional sporting club.
NBA.
And that's what's been happening in the NRL recently. So, which I'm really happy about all this. It's going forward.
So,
but yeah.
All right, that's kind of all the off-field news. So we said we'd come back to signings, and we'll do that because it has been a pretty busy week with regards to that. So we mentioned already West Tigers have released Josh Reynolds. He signed a 3-year deal with Hull FC. Didn't really work out for him at the Tigers. 20 games over 3 seasons due to injuries and form and non-selection. His nickname's the Grub because he gets under the rival skin, the fan skin. But you got to say he's one player that has always put the team ahead of himself. Good luck to him at Hull. I think Super League's really going to suit him. And it frees up an extra $500,000-ish for the Tigers, who are already playing in the hundreds of thousands of dollars of free space. So they're finally looking like they're getting back on the right track. The big one of the week, James Tedesco signing $1.1 million per year through to the end of 2024. So that's locked him in at the Roosters. If you keep seeing that how the game's trending with regards to media and the sort of money that's getting thrown around on streaming platforms and stuff, this could go down as a bargain.
Yeah.
I still think at 1.1 million for what he brings to a club and a team, he's taken unders. Like Cherry Evans at the moment's on 1.3. You'd say that the form and where Tedesco is in his career, in his prime, if Cherry Evans is on 1.3, you'd be saying he's on he'd be worth 1.5. Is where I'd be throwing Tedesco.
I would pick Tedesco over Cherry Evans every day of the week.
That's what I just said.
That's nothing against Cherry Evans. It's just
Cherry Evans is still elite, but he's also on the other side of 30.
Yeah. So with Tedesco, obviously he's the next generation, or our generation of best fullback there is.
No, our generation was Billy Slater.
Oh well, you know what I mean. Current best fullback.
Yes,
there
current.
So it kind of reminds me of the hooker transition. So obviously in the 90s you had, early 90s you had,
late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, late 90s, Walters, Gutierrez, and then Smith.
Yeah.
You got your Matt Bowen, and then you got your Billy Slater. So early 2000s, who was the best hooker? Was it O'Davis? No.
Hooker?
I can't remember. Fullback, sorry. Who was the best fullback in early 2000s? You had a lot. Lockyer, there you go.
Brett Mullins?
Lockyer, Bowen.
Cello?
Yeah, Davis would have been up there. Some people like that. Tchaikovsky said it. But do you believe that Tedesco will be better than Slater when he retires?
I don't think better's the right word. I think I think there's a chance he has an impact on the game as much as Slater's with regards to how the game is played.
On par.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
He's never going to have the Origin success.
I just think the one thing he has over Slater is his work rate.
Yeah.
So
in attack,
yeah, that's right. He's a fullback. I just think he takes those shit runs more than Slater did.
Yeah. And when I say have an impact on the game, the first thing that popped into my head is how many times have we seen him run for 200 meters a game?
Yeah. Like Slater's ball playing was way better, but Tedesco's getting there.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Slater's, I'd say on par with, probably Slater's a bit better at support play, but it's a bit hard to do.
And the other thing is Tedesco's played his whole career as a fullback, or a Slater transition from wing to centre to fullback, or centre to wing to fullback.
The only concern I have, and this is just me, but like when you saw Slater run, it was such a natural run. Like his body was just built to do that. When he got an open space, you're like, holy shit! Like he just moves so smoothly. With Tedesco, he has had a lot of lower leg injuries. I remember the worst one I ever seen was when he shattered his kneecap in the first 20 seconds, 5 seconds of the game against Canberra back now it was 6-7 years ago now. And the way he runs and the way he tries to get out of tackles, I always imagine that he's going to tear something off his leg. Do you see that as well?
Yeah, but he's talked about what he's had to do to change his running technique. And you just got to trust in the physio and the stuff they're doing behind the scenes.
Oh no, that's right. Like when he was younger, obviously his body wasn't ready for the NRL. That's what it was. But I just hope that his career doesn't get cut short for injuries, because with Slater, he did get injuries, but his body was more natural in the way he ran, so he didn't twist or anything like that.
And his injuries towards the end were upper body, shoulder and
with Tedesco, like he's got the upper body of a front rower. He is or a second rower. He is a monster up top. Like he's huge compared to Slater as well. He's massive. But yeah, Slater's so that's the only concern I have for Tedesco. Just I worry that his body might not last in the NRL. That's the only thing I'm concerned about, especially because he'll be playing close to 30, 40 games a year sometimes.
I love how we get sidetracked onto a Slater versus Tedesco comparison when we've talked about it's like this is the contracts bit. But yeah, he's on 1.1 million for the next 3 years for the Roosters. Kevin Walters has landed his first big re-signing with Thomas Flegler committing for a further 2 years in Brisbane, outside of rival offers from Sydney. James Tedesco. Jack Cogger has signed with Huddersfield in the Super League. He'll be partnering, I believe. I just had the name.
Yeah, I had it.
I had the name. I'm going to have to look it up. Another Aussie from memory. So he'll be getting a starting job over with the Huddersfield Giants in the Super League.
Aiden Caesar,
that's it. Thank you. Josh Reynolds, we've said. Tigers have re-signed Alex Seyfarth. We said it was in the works. That's happened. Sandor Earl has announced his retirement. Supposedly going into a career in pharmaceuticals. If that's what? Too soon?
No, that's not even funny.
Oh, come on. That was pretty good. He was not offered a new deal by the Storm for 2021, and he's decided to Retire. Are we missing anything there? No, we've talked about the Manly signs already. Tautau Moga's on a 1-year deal with the Rabbitohs.
Edina Gebbie. So, I don't know if many people know who this
Oh, and Albert
guy is.
Hopewadi, 1-year deal with the Raiders.
So, Edina Gebbie, he broke out for, I want to say, the Blackhawks in 2019. Leading try scorer of the Q Cup. He's just if you saw him play, he's super fast, natural. He just gets the ball and he just goes, and it's just he's a talent. And he signed with South Sydney, but with the outside backs they've signed this year, they just can't keep him on. So he signed a training trial deal with the Tigers. I'm putting money on him getting the contract, and I hope he debuts because I really want to see him in the NRL just light shit up. He's a really talented guy.
See? Another input from our Q Cup representative in Jared. Loves his Q Cup. This isn't a new signing, but this is one that I feel is kind of sliding under the radar based on his last couple of years. But I'd completely forgotten that Ryan James has signed with Canberra, and he's there for the next couple of seasons. Yeah. And we talk about John Bateman leaving. Freaking Ryan James is origin quality when he's on form. And I just saw a news story on how Ricky Stewart's loving how he's training. I went, oh, shit, I completely forgot about that. He's just going to... That's such a huge pickup if they get him back to what he was.
What he's done is he's actually come out there and started training early with the Jersey flex squad.
His work ethic's always been there. They were saying he was doing that at the Titans as well. Prior to being made captain, and then during is the early training, late training.
Yeah.
Every club's got one at least.
He's been playing front row for his entire career, but before I think he tore his ACL at Gold Coast in preseason last year.
Twice.
Before he did that, they were priming him to play edge on the edge.
No, he played a fair bit of edge.
Yeah, he just got because they put a lot of bulk on him, and they brought him in the middle. So I think they were like, "We're going to tear that off you. You're going to make you lean," which will happen at Canberra. Like Ricky still will lean him up, and then look, he won't have the ball skills Bateman has, but I think he'd be more of a damaging runner if they get him in form.
Yeah,
so
he'd be in the. Just trying to think, like if they want him playing prop, you'd have him and
Harley and James,
Harley, and then that'd leave Tarpany at
lock
on an edge, maybe if you want to put Horsburgh at lock and have Whitehead as your other second row.
Either way, they're going to have a massive forward pack. It's going to be epic.
And Gareth Widdop has dropped his price. It's come out. He's looking for about $300,000 a year, and he hasn't actually officially requested a release from Warrington yet in the Super League. So him and his agent engaging interest in the NRL. But for $300,000 to get a player of Gareth Widdop's quality, I'm surprised there hasn't been more clubs lining up to sign him up. When you're thinking how many clubs could use a premiership caliber 5'8". Just thinking Cowboys, even though they've already said no. Newcastle. I'd still like to say Manly.
Look, if he went to the Broncos, that'd be absolutely fantastic.
Warriors.
Yeah, Warriors. There's a lot of clubs.
Oh, yeah, Broncos, definitely.
Yeah, Broncos could really. But
I wouldn't touch Titans. I think Titans have got something cooking there. St. George still would be a perfect fit.
I don't think Jamal Fogarty is going to lead them to a premiership.
But I think they've kind of got your St. George Dragons, Wayne Bennett premiership about them, where you've just got a solid squad, a solid team. And their halves weren't their superstars. Ben Hornby was solid.
Jamie Sow nearly won the Dally M that year, by the way.
Yeah, but a lot of players can have outstanding years, right? Well, Darius Boyd got the Clive Churchill there. That was probably his best season ever. But I can see Titans doing something like that.
But yeah, no, I think Gareth Widdop should be looked at. There's something going on that someone of his caliber hasn't been picked up yet.
Yeah.
Especially when they went half price. There's something going on though, because 3 years ago, and that might be what it is, people might think he's too old, and because his shoulders are cooked. He dislocates them every time he gets in the tackle. But 3 years ago, if he put out that he's going to be signed for 500 grand, he had about 12 clubs lined up to sign him. So there's something going on there to stop this, so that every club knows.
Yeah, definitely could be. Definitely could be. The last little bit before we wrap up, I don't have anything else, but the NRL 2021 draw dropped on Thursday, literally a day after we did our last pod. So it's up on the NRL website. I'm sure you can find it elsewhere as well. Easter clashes are back. Origin back in the middle of the season. It's so far been released all the way up through to round 25. Obviously, some things are subject to change still with COVID, but if it keeps going as it does, Warriors will be playing the majority of their season out of Auckland, with teams travelling there, obviously excluding rounds 1 and 2, we've already mentioned. But we'll be doing a look into draw favoritism, easy draw, harder draw, team preview, same stuff we did at the start of this season, but we'll be doing that closer to the season. So we have seen it. We're not going to be going into depth at the moment. Going over this off season, Jared's going to be taking some time off for a holiday. I'm not going to be going anywhere, but we're still going to endeavour to get out a podcast a week, whether it's both of us, whether it's one of us, whether it's us with a guest. We're still looking at lining up some interviews and merchandise, that sort of stuff. A couple of changes happening here and there to look forward to, but keep in touch. Keep in touch with us on our social media platforms at 6Again Pod on Twitter, at 6Again Podcast on Facebook, YouTube. I'm actually getting more consistent of uploading the videos, so you can check out our mugs on there. Thank you again for all the support on the show. Thanks again to Joel, winner of our first comp. So we'll have a stubby cooler going your way. Please shoot us a message on Facebook or at Twitter. And we're going to keep the fan interaction going. Don't have anything for us this week, but we're coming up with a couple of questions and a bit of a quiz for next week's show as well. Anything from you, Jared?
Nah.
Cool. All right, guys. See you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to 6Again. Connect with the show on Twitter, Instagram, and the 6Again website. All links via the show's bio. Be sure to check out Adam's Craft Beer Choice of the Week.